Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse. And yeah, Morgan Wallen album bomb. And this, it's Billboard Breakdown.
I don't remember.
I don't know. I was expecting this week to feel a bit more overwhelming than it does. Now, some of that is because I put in album bomb rules specifically to handle this, and thank God they're here, because otherwise this would all go way too long. But I've also reviewed the Morgan Wallen album already on my main channel, and it was such a vacant experience that I can't help but see this week as feeling really hollow. A lot of numbers, a lot of major impact, but how much of this is really gonna last? Honestly, I might be way more interested in what comes out the other side in a week or two. That's probably more interesting. But we gotta handle the top 10, because as I predicted, Last Night by Morgan Wallen took the number one. It is not a remotely strong number one. It's here predominantly on streaming, the radio's got a ways to catch up. This wasn't even the best-selling song from the album, we'll get to that. But I would put money on this falling off rather quickly. And it's likely gonna go back to Flowers by Miley Cyrus, now at number 2. The radio growth didn't really slow down, the sales are still good, and it actually gained on streaming. When her album impacts the Hot 100 next week, she's got a tangible shot to go right back to the top. Now that strands Kill Bill by SZA, currently at number 3, where the streaming is stable, she's making radio headway, but just can't close the gap without any proper sales to plug that margin. Now all that held over Die For You by The Weeknd and Ariana Grande knocked out to number 4, where the streaming took a tangible hit, and radio, it's at its peak. It's had its 1 week at the top, that's about as much as it can hope for. But there is still a chance for Boy's a Liar Part 2 by Pink Pantheress and Ice Spice at number 5. The streaming is stable as all hell. If they get that radio traction to fully properly ramp up, they could make the most out of the next couple of weeks of chaos, that's all I'm saying. Then we got Creepin' by Metro Boomin, 21 Savage and The Weeknd at number 6. The radio run here is good, but it looks like it's about over, even with that Diddy remix coming for some reason. And the rest of our top 10, it's all Morgan Wallen, albeit for slightly different reasons. Thought You Should Know at number 7, You Proof back in the top 10 at number 8, and One Thing at a Time at number 10. These are all songs I've covered before. They were on the Hot 100. The only new arrival is Thinkin Bout Me at number 9. It was the highest Morgan Wallen seller this week. Trust me, we will get to it later. But now onto the album bomb wreckage itself, the losers and dropouts. And in the latter category, Morgan Wallen definitely did some damage. A lot of the dropouts, yes, they were from the Karol G album bomb from last week, but he took out About Damn Time by Lizzo, Unstoppable by Sia, She Had Me at Heads Carolina by Cole Swindell, Wait For You by Future Thames and Drake, I Like You a Happier Song by Post Malone and Doja Cat, The Kind of Love We Make by Luke Combs, and Bad Habit by Steve Lacy. Honestly, even if there are songs there that I like, that's more that I don't. If we can wipe away the last of 2022 and some true stinkers so they don't make the year-end list, looking at you, Sia, hard for me to complain. Now for our losers. Oh god damn it, this is nearly half the chart. It would just be listing songs. It would be far easier to just list the tracks that didn't move. So I'm gonna go up the middle here. I'm going to talk about those losers where there is more of a story and the songs that didn't really move at all, so that might actually last and matter. So let's start off with the latter, and this will be pretty quick. Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift clung to number 12, as did Unholy by Sam Smith and Kim Petras at 16, Calm Down by Rema and Selena Gomez at 19, and Rock in a Hard Place by Bailey Zimmerman at 20. All these songs could have a tangible shot to break in or break back into the top 10 next week. It's going to be worth watching. Then there's As It Was by Harry Styles trundling along at 23, as well as Players by Coi Leray at 24. Expect a big jump for this likely next week too. And that's also going to be the case for Under the Influence by Chris Brown at 26, Thank God by Kane and Caitlin Brown at 28, and Lavender Haze by Taylor Swift at 31. There's only 2 other songs that mostly held firm, and they both kinda shocked me. Sure Thing by Miguel at 36, I guess the virality's holding up, and Trance by Metro Boomin, Young Thug, and Travis Scott way down at 94. It apparently had way more traction than anyone expected. Now for the losers that I would consider story-worthy, well, 2 off the debut with Private Landing by Don Toliver featuring Justin Bieber and Future at 89, and TQG by Karol G and Shakira at 17. Then there's the continued losers like Made You Look by Meghan Trainor at 57, 97. AMG by Gabriel Ballesteros, Peso Pluma, and Nathaniel Cano at 97. And then Lift Me Up by Rihanna at 98. It's on its way out. Then there's the gains that are cut short, like Ex Si Volvemos by Karol G and Romeo Santos sliding back to 93. Or Ceilings by Lizzie McAlpine stumbling to 80. Or Spin Bout You by Drake and 21 Savage. Outside of that, I think there's a couple songs that are worth noting here. Golden Hour by Jake looks like it's on its way out at 49. Same with Heart Like a Truck by Lainey Wilson at 55. Dawns by Zach Bryan and Maggie Rogers looks like its bizarre run is stalling out at 87. But the most interesting story here is Painting Pictures by Superstar's Pride at 62. A massive drop-off, likely not helped by all the confusion around the sample clearance last week that got it pulled off Spotify, then put back on. The question is whether or not that was a true momentum killer. We will have to see. But now onto our gains and returns. Folks, it's the Morgan Wallen story. No way around it. And the returns, they're all from him. Don't Think Jesus back at 77, Days That End in Y at 61, and Tennessee Fan at 54. He also took all the gains, with the two in the top 10 I already mentioned, alongside Everything I Love rebounding big to 14, and I Wrote the Book at 18. But again, make no mistake, we are in album bomb territory here. As of the 29 songs debuted this week, 27 are from him. Thankfully, I've already reviewed the album. And since my rules stipulate we're looking at those in the top 20 plus the best and worst, here's all the rest. Outlook at 76, Had It at 75, Money on Me at 72, Me to Me at 71, Good Girl Gone Missin' at 69, gross, Wine Into Water at 59, Single Than She Was at 56, F-150-50 at 53, I Deserve a Drink at 52, Me and All Your Reasons at 51, and Neon Star Country Boy Lullaby at 48. We're not done. In the Bible with Hardy at 47, Keith Whitley at 44, Dying Man at 43, Hope That's True at 41, Cowgirls with Ernest at 40, though that one sucks. Tennessee Numbers at 38, Whiskey Friends at 35, Born with a Beer in My Hand at 32, Sunrise at 30, Devil Don't Know at 29, and 98 Braves at 27. Though that last one was close. It's actually a pretty good song. But now on to get to the rest of this, starting off with number 65, Last Drive Down Maine by Morgan Wallen.
Memory lane, turn it up for old time's sake, taking one last drive down Maine.
Okay, I'll give him this. When Morgan Wallen actually gets a little bit of tempo and intensity to sell a breakup song to pull him out of a mopey spiral, this can actually have some groove and punch to it. The guitar line is solid, it's got some revving rollick as the bass and live drums ramp up. And while Morgan Wallen isn't someone who can sell anger that well, you can tell there is a bit of seething frustration alongside the angst as he's got to take to the road after the breakup with all the stuff packed in the truck, one last trip down Maine. I do wish the song cut loose a little more. It ends kind of abruptly. I feel like it's missing one verse or a much more impressive solo, but it is less morose and haggard. It shows some tangible momentum. I mean, it's one of the few times that happens on the entire damn album. At least to me, it's the best thing here. I can recommend this, if little else. Number 63, 180 Lifestyle by Morgan Wallen.
Chasing the moonlight, she don't come from it, but now she ain't running from me. Yeah, she loving the lifestyle.
I feel like if you don't follow country and you're closer to mainstream rap, this might break your brain a bit, because it's Morgan Wallen interpolating Lifestyle by Rich Gang with Rich Homie Quan and Young Thug. That sounds like a joke. Certainly not something that should have ever seen the light of day on a commercial release, but somehow it actually gets worse. Say what you will about Lifestyle. I mean, I don't like it. The wordplay's really sloppy. The hooks never worked for me. Young Thug would go on to make much better music, but there was a relaxed brightness to the song that could feel aspirational. I might not like it. I get why it works. So naturally, Morgan Wallen flips it into a weirdly dreary song with painfully cheap-sounding trap percussion, and all in a minor key about converting a city girl into his lifestyle back in the sticks. So why does that sound like a threat? Or like everything here is going backwards compared to the original sample? What's gross about this is that it feels like this girl is cosplaying country, especially in how Morgan Wallen rattles off all the references and outright admits that his dad is not sure about this. And I mean for damn good reason, because it all feels so fake, and that awful country trap production does not help matters. I mean, I don't think it's the worst song on the album. Half the time it's so bad it swings around to being kind of funny, but I am dreading the remix or a mashup of some kind that makes this become a thing, likely on TikTok. Just wait. That's gonna happen. Number 60, On the Street by J-Hope and J. Cole.
Every time I hope always for us.
The weird thing about being a critic for a longer time is when you see acts that you're only lukewarm on getting highlighted as top tier, and even if you get where people are coming from, you don't agree, and it gets all the more bizarre when artists believe that and hop on board in the same way. So when J-Hope of BTS cited how much of a J. Cole fan he is, and brought J. Cole onto this song, feels a little weird for me to approach now, especially given that J-Hope was intending this as a bit of a goodbye, given that he's now looking to do his military service in South Korea. And you know what, I'll give J-Hope this. It's a short verse, but it's effective against the clattering old school percussion, the rattle of guitar, the whistle, and the scratching. It seems like a good send-off. But then there's J. Cole, who is very much in a pensive will he retire or not mold, doing all Aaron Rodgers sort of thing, especially as he still thinks he's got more to do, he's still hungry, but at the most he provides in terms of bars are very much a bunch of anti-atheist musings that are very surface level, and how he's got more quotables than the quota allows. Dude, I've reviewed the majority of your catalog. That's not always a good thing. I don't know. It's a weird verse that doesn't really fit well with J-Hope's earnest focus. Leaves this feeling like more of a curiosity than a strong song I'd go back to. I mean, it's not bad, but it ain't great either. Number 15, Man Made a Bar by Morgan Wallen featuring Eric Church.
Oh, but he didn't make no place to go when she breaks your heart. So man made a bar.
This song leaves me conflicted, because there's some very obvious flaws. There's a bit of God Made Girls to it, and that creation story that fills up the hook. You can very clearly tell that Eric Church came in to lend in some respectability to the song, even if he doesn't have a writing credit, and his verse in the third person doesn't really fit with the first person bartender narrative from Morgan Wallen's verse, where the bridge feels tacked on to give some women some vestige of agency outside of being heartbreaker, so they wind up at the bars and the cycle begins anew. That being said, it is a cut that leans more on watery neo-traditional tones with the mandolin and the pedal steel. And while I wouldn't say there's a lot of chemistry here, it winds up feeling like a lower tier Eric Church song. It's why I generally tolerate it. It's pretty far from great, not bad either. Number 13, Red Ruby Da Sleeze by Nicki Minaj. Okay, at some point I started getting invested in this Nicki Minaj album rollout. That feels like a mistake on my part. Apparently all the old singles got packaged into Queen Radio Volume 1, and I'm now thoroughly annoyed that this still feels mismanaged. And yes, it happened with Queen back in 2018, but you would think in 5 years someone in her camp could have gotten their shit together. Anyway, here's another single where we've got no idea if the album's coming, or if this is even gonna make the album. All the more frustrating because about half to 2/3 of the song I really like. These are some of Nicki's sharpest verses in a while. Violent and taking down her haters and her copycats, but more creative, and the punchlines are layered, and the Caribbean slang actually blends in pretty well, which I think Nicki realized, which is why the hook and the bridge are full of patois, and her singing, and while she's become a better singer, it doesn't really flow as well from her verses as it could, especially as she's trying to be more sensual. That doesn't really line up with the content. It's an odd clash. I'm left wishing that the production was a little bit stronger, give this some teeth. The clapping percussion loop balancing out the bass and the Lullaby sample, I think it's good, it's polished, but I wish there was a little bit more melodic punch, or the spare percussion had more presence in the mix. So overall, again, I think this is good. It's not better than Do We Have a Problem, which should have been pushed properly as a single, but I guess I'll take this now. Now it's gonna see if it gets pushed at least as well as Super Freaky Girl, or if the album shows up. Why do I think I somehow doubt that? Number 11, Ain't That Some by Morgan Wallen.
We was J high, there's folks out there ain't TR why it is. Man, ain't that some shit?
The only thing that surprises me about this is that it doesn't have a trap beat blended into it, especially given the painfully canned-sounding vocal production as Morgan Wallen does his melodic rap through this slog. Hell, that's effectively the only thing that saves it, because outside of that, we got a bunch of stale, borderline bro country patter, with Morgan Wallen admitting how cliche it all is, but that's just what it's like out in the backwoods. Maybe it's just me. I think they might deserve a little bit more credit than embracing stale crap like this. I mean, what kind of surprises me is that the percussion and the guitar lines, again, they actually sound more organic than you would otherwise expect, but it's not like there's firepower to this. That's what you're getting from Joey Moy these days. It sounds like something that Morgan Wallen's been sitting on since probably his debut and just got dropped here because why not? He put up too many songs like this on this album already. Might be modestly catchy, but it's insanely dumb. I can't even have fun with this. Pass. And finally, number 9, Thinkin Bout Me by Morgan Wallen.
Where he's driving, are you missing my street? Every time you close your eyes, tell me who do you see? When you're tasting what he's drinking, are you thinking about me?
And of course, the biggest debut this week happens to be my least favorite song on the goddamn album. Something that should have been left as an album cut or forgotten. You know what? No, it should have just been cut from this bloated mass of a project. Basically, take the garbage vocal mixing of Ain't That Some, pair it with some very obviously programmed percussion where the kick is too heavy and the hi-hat and snare have no power, and Morgan Wallen in his concern trolling absolute worst, where despite this girl having very clearly moved on, he wants to know exactly how much she's really thinking about him, because apparently she ought to be with Morgan Wallen instead. It's just noxious and sour, the sort of crap that borders on when Sam Hunt rips off Drake and nobody sounds like they're having any fun. And the really vindictive part of this song is on the first verse, where he says he doesn't even feel bad for her, but for the new partner, because ultimately it's between guys, and Morgan Wallen's just gonna win out here. It has this noxious condescension that feels fucking gross. This might be among Morgan Wallen's worst songs to date. Deserves to get forgotten in record time. Probably won't. It's absolute crap. And that ends the week. Thinkin Bout Me is the worst. I've already said it. 180 Lifestyle, the dishonorable mention. I could have very easily added more here. Cowgirl springs to mind, but I got better things to do with my time. Now, the best of the week, I really did want to give it to Nicki Minaj for Red Ruby Da Sleeze, but that's honorable mention. Morgan Wallen's Last Drive Down Maine does work enough just to barely scrape by it. Only barely. I think Nicki might have more staying power. We'll have to see. Next week, though, I want to say Miley Cyrus Album Bomb, given that she's now on Columbia and they're better at getting the streaming going properly, but certainly we'll see the aftermath, so stay tuned. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.